Greetings and salutations, viewers. Welcome to ConnectiCon 2017. I am Charles from Inspire the Muse, coming to you today with a guest from Wordfire Press, Anthony Dobranski. Thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to us about your book.
Delighted to be here. Thank you, Charles.
We are hoping to learn a bit about The Demon in Business Class.
The Demon in Business Class is a modern-day fantasy. It's got a corporate setting, so I sometimes tell people that it's a paranormal fantasy cosplaying a corporate thriller.
That's really cool.
Thank you. The story is a demon-possessed spy trying to start the next global war, falls in love with the psychic trying to stop it. And it's set all around the world, Europe, Asia, North America, major cities. It's definitely a jet age, business class kind of novel. But the general story is, of course, star-crossed lovers of a type. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about some spiritual themes. I mean, it's not simply good and evil in the storybook sense. I really wanted to take on what it is to be evil or be good, because a lot of times that turns into self-righteousness if you're being good and not actually goodness. So those are some of the themes behind the book too. But it's got a big story. There's a MacGuffin, a secret plan to avoid the next global war or start it, depending on whose side you're on.
We'll have to read and find out.
You'll have to read and find out.
Very cool. And this book has come out recently, within the last year.
Yeah, it came out last November. I debuted in pre-release form in Cincinnati in September, and the official release was at Rhode Island Comic-Con in November.
Very cool. What was the reception like?
You know, I have been blown away. There's definitely a market for this book. People have come up, they just see the cover, they're interested, they talk about it, and they are into it. It's not the biggest, it doesn't have the biggest audience, because for one thing, it's an adult book. It's not a YA novel. And so there's a lot of people here who are just a little young to buy it, but the ones who are over 21, they're definitely enjoying having something that's written for them, I think. And also the international is a big draw. A lot of books tend to get set in the modern day world in fairly single places, but being able to have the kind of trip around the northern hemisphere, I wanted to make it as much of a beach read as a fantasy book can be in that sense.
Nice.
You know, someplace to escape to.
I always appreciate a book that kind of travels the globe, whether it's ours or a different one entirely.
Well, this one definitely does, and that's part of the reason too. I mean, when you give a character the ability to speak all languages, it's not much good if they don't go to other places where they have to use that. And it also, there's something kind of strange about our relationship with place, particularly as the world is globalized, because on one hand, you know, you go to Hong Kong, but you go to Starbucks in Hong Kong, you know,
or McDonald's.
Or 7-Eleven, you know, it's this strange kind of layering over the world. You can escape and find, you know, kind of the authentic local culture, but we really have created and are creating a cosmopolitan culture in this world where you can fly across the ocean and find more or less the same stuff you're used to back home. That just never happened before, and I wanted to play with that idea too.
Very cool.
That tension between knowing and discovering.
What has the creation process been like when you were putting this story together?
Oh, I did everything wrong. Oh my God, I did everything wrong. First of all, I started out writing a novel. Most people work their way up, they have shorter publications, so that limited my ability to develop my career. Till the book was published, I had no career. I really, honestly, I threw out 400 pages. When I was first writing, I had worked in business so long that I'd kind of forgotten how to like step back and write about it. So I was really in the weeds. A lot of stuff that I made up that I just literally threw out. So after the first 400 pages, after a while I just tossed them, started over, found the style, found the writing. But even then, you know, your first novel is really very much a learning experience,
yes.
Even if you have written fiction before. The first novel, and they don't really teach you how to write a novel. There's a compositional element. There's juggling a whole bunch of different parts.
Yes.
And all that's really hard to find until you actually have to go and do it. I remember I read an interview with Stanley Kubrick once who said, the only way to really learn to make a film is to make a film. And I think that that's exactly true with writing a book. But once I did it, I'm hoping the second one will be out faster.
Nice. And for our viewers out there, if you're not familiar, business writing is an entirely different beast than novel writing.
Absolutely.
It is much more condensed and faster paced, but not really story-wise.
It's not really story-wise. It has a lot of emotion in it, but it tends to be emotions that you want to push onto other people as opposed to the emotions you're feeling yourself. But it's funny you should mention that, because I did want in Demon the style to be that kind of feel. You know, these are not people who spend a lot of time really reading Tolstoy. These are people who read newspapers, these are people who read PowerPoints, and they get to have interior lives, but they don't have the highfalutin language that a lot of other literary characters get to have to describe those interior lives. So that was something I wanted to play with. I wanted to get that tone, that it's somewhere between like brass and machismo, but at the same time being able to like feel that the actual people behind it. So how they look at the world, how they cut things short, how they let things go. That
Very
was really,
cool.
I wanted to play with that a lot, with the language too.
So will your next book be a continuation of this one, or
Nope.
something else entirely?
No, totally different, totally
Nice.
different. The next book is a science fiction novel. It was inspired by a dream, and it's set in a couple hundred years ahead in the future, but it's set in a place that's become a total wasteland through nanotechnology, except the nanotech waste keeps oozing out diamonds. And so it's created this kind of no person's land around it that has a boomtown economy. And I wanted to play with the ideas of, it's a bit of an allegory about climate change. I wanted to play with, you know, if things go the stuff that we panic about today, that'll be someone's new normal 4 or 5 generations ahead, and they're not going to know any other kind of place for it. And so I wanted to play with the idea of how we adapt to whatever environment we're given, and we don't really think about what it might have been in the past. We think about where we are now.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Do you have an idea of potentially when that would be coming out?
I'm hoping to be ready to start getting an editor to look at it in the fall, because now that I'm touring around for Demon, it's strange. You spend all this time writing your first novel and you write it and we're like, oh, where's the second one? It's like, whoa, dude. And so I'm hoping to be done with it this fall, and maybe this time next year have it here ready to go, or at least in advanced reader versions.
That would be great.
That would be awesome. ConnectiCon is definitely a place. I was here last year. In fact, I met you here last year before Demon came out, because I was learning kind of the convention ropes. My publisher said, you know, if you're going to do this, learn how.
And this is a good convention for that.
It really is. It's a great crowd. It's definitely a diverse crowd. The manga and the anime orientations here are really strong. So you get people who like a lot of different media, and who also, you know, are a little cosmopolitan. But it's also not the biggest crowd ever, so
It's
you get
manageable.
to. It's manageable. But it was really interesting. Just you watch people, how they look at things, how quickly they make their connections, and it really drove my marketing, the banners that I have at the booth, how I put things out, because I realized you really have very little time to click. So you got to get out there, find your best audience, and talk to them. And other audiences may come along for the ride, but a lot of times those audiences come along when you found your best one and they talk you up.
Yep. Where can our viewers find your book to purchase?
Well, Amazon, of course, and all the other online bookstores have it in both paper if they deal with them, and ebook. And any bookstore anywhere in America can order it just the way you would. Since I'm new on and low on the totem pole, I may not be on the shelf in the bookstore you go to, but if you ask for me, they'll be able to get it.
Great. To all our viewers out there, definitely go check this book out. I want a copy because I'm intrigued. And if you do happen to read it, post in the comments of the video below what you thought of it so we can continue the conversations. Thank you all for joining us, and subscribe to the channel so you can see all the other crazy shenanigans that we get up to while at conventions, and see all the other great people that we're interviewing. And until next time, go read a book. Go have some fun.